So hi everyone, this is Jacob Fortune again. This is a Doers Within Us podcast. We share stories of diverse founders and investors building businesses in underserved markets / emerging markets to create both local and global impact. We've been sharing these experiences in different forms. We recently partnered with African Diaspora Network, which is a platform based in California that invites entrepreneurs in diaspora who are creating impact on the continent. Today we have a very special guest, someone that I've just known recently, but just having a few conversations with him, somebody that we can learn a lot from. He's doing so much amazing work. I just recently found out that he was on the NASDAQ tour, which implies it's the beginning of many things to come. It's Samuel Baddoo, founder of Fleri Health, and pretty much, he, based on his profile, he calls himself a proud immigrant. But beyond that, he has a very, very entrepreneurial fortitude. He wants to create an impact, primarily in the healthcare space, and he wants to make a simple solution for Africans in diaspora to kind of, provide health to aging parents. But more importantly, I think this is just a platform where you can really give back to the older generation or the newer generation. And we'll go more into Fleri Health and what it is and what he's thinking about and what's the direction of it in the next few years. But Samuel, please, if you don't mind, can you just introduce yourself, and we'll talk more about your company and other things that will be of interest to our listeners. So Samuel, thank you so much again. Thank you for your time and welcome to the Doers Within Us podcast.
Jacob, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here with you. I've been a keen follower. I've listened to quite a number of your episodes with people who happen to be my friends and people that I admire as well. Like you rightly said, my name is Sam Baddoo. I am currently founder and CEO of Fleri. Fleri is a family care platform that helps migrants find, evaluate, and then pay for healthcare for their loved ones back home. It's been a pleasure to connect with you over these last few weeks. I think we've had some very interesting conversations, not just with regards to the continent, not just with regards to entrepreneurship, but also with regards to the way we see the solutions that our people need the most, right? So I'm really, really honored to be here, looking forward to sharing a little bit of my background, what we've been doing, and getting to know you and your audience a little better.
Thank you so much. And thanks for elaborating on Fleri Health. It's such an honor to have this conversation. But more importantly, everyone that comes on this podcast, breaks things in a good way. We've had some really great people. So you're joining the league of change makers. So it's such an honor. So for us to kind of get into it, so I know you're now based. I used to be based in the US because the last time we talked, you're heading somewhere. But if you can just give us where you are now, and also just kind of give us where everything began, where you grew up and all that, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, so I was originally born in Ghana. I grew up in Ghana, lived there for most of my life. Was lucky enough in 2007, I had a UN scholarship to go to Morocco to go study. So I lived there for a while, about 5 years, moved back to Ghana, and then built a number of different companies with, some friends of mine went on to start 2 other businesses before moving to the United States. I've been living in the US close to 10 years now, and used to be in New York, now live in Columbus, Ohio, but I am currently based in Stockholm, Sweden. So it's a really beautiful view that I have here, grasping the very last bits of summer before the fallen and the darkness comes here. So as you can tell, the one thing that I really, really do appreciate in my life is the ability to travel and to meet new people. I really believe that this has shaped me to a large extent,
Yep.
and also shaped my mindset and the way that I view humanity and the things that matter to work on.
That's incredible. Such your life experience. I think one thing I would like to ask is not in the question session before. Is it Nigerian jollof or Ghanaian jollof?
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this.
It's not
On Saturday, I took a friend, a few friends of mine. Right, I was the only Ghanaian, one Sierra Leonean, three Nigerians,
yeah.
to what is the only buffet African restaurant in Sweden.
Oh, Sweden, yeah.
Right, it is operated and founded by a Ghanaian.
That's
And
bias. That's bias.
I'm telling you, but when they ate it, right,
Yeah.
when they ate the jollof, there was silence. You know what that means when someone keeps quiet?
I
It
know.
means they will not be dishonest in themselves to argue about it, because you cannot argue the unarguable, right? But at the same time, it is,
My God.
pride and shame will not allow them to say anything bad about it because they know how enjoyable it was. So that for me was the confirmation that I needed, that it is Ghana Jollof 24/7. And even Ghanaians will attest to it when they eat it.
Oh, that is so funny. That's such an African response. Anyway, I wanted to just spice it up to make this conversation interesting. No, thanks for sharing. I think this debate will never end. So we have had this is an ongoing conversation, but I think it makes things interesting. Thanks for sharing. One thing that you have mentioned is like, from Ghana, you got this UN support to Morocco, and up in the United States. What has been, I would say, like, what are the people that kind of help you? I know, by the way, if we can just take a step back, like, what inspired you to travel? Or what has been something that made you feel like, okay, traveling was a very, gonna be a critical part of your life and really got you excited? And if I might ask the second part, what was kind of an inspiration to get into this type of lifestyle, right? I think, growing in West Africa, I don't think it's pretty common to see people travel. Or maybe you grew up in, in the bougie,
No.
Legon, but
I did not grow up rich. I didn't grow up in a bougie part of Accra or anything. I grew up in Tema. As always, TM for life.
Yeah.
But what I could tell you is that I grew up to two entrepreneurial parents. My dad started one of the very first travel and tour companies, Home Tours, very, very early. So I believe in 1992, he had started Home Tours. And so I grew up to a dad who traveled a lot. But not only that, he used to run a lot of visiting programs for foreign universities and African Americans in the diaspora that were looking to retrace their heritage, as well as people from all over the world, really. So we've had so many guests in our homes from different places. Think of Suriname, South Africa, Germany. I've met so many people. And so growing up, I was very inspired by the people that I'd met, the places they came from, but also the ability to relate to this greater world, by connecting with all these people.
Yep.
Right. And so I never had a plan to say, oh, I'm gonna grow up and travel all over the world. But every single time the opportunity has come and the opportunity continues to show up, right? I didn't know at the beginning of the year that I was going to be in Stockholm for 3 months, right? I didn't know that. I didn't know I was going to be here meeting all these people. But once you set off on the path in the direction that you want to go in. Everything that arrives does not have to be a plan, but it's definitely a part of the adventure. I'm very open to it. I'm very, very mindful of it. And I try to stay in the moment and actually enjoy the unfolding of what that reality looks like. I really don't stress about it, right? I'm here today, I'm gone tomorrow. God decides best, but while we're here, we make the best of it. So that's kind of my thinking and approach to it. The second part, I think you had asked, outside of what inspired it, why do I enjoy this? I really do think that travel is the best gift anyone could truly have, right? If God created us in his own image, then he created, a good 6-7 billion of us in his images. Why would we not want to meet all of God's children if we can, right? How, if we met more people who lived in different places, we will have a better appreciation for how other people think, how they do things, what we could learn from them. And I'm always humbled by just the different people that I meet, what they're accomplishing, what they care about, and the differences in all the different places that we go to. So that's what drives, this. That's what fuels it. I rarely say no to travel.
That's beautiful. I think to add to that, if I may, traveling gives you it opens your world, expands your world, different way of thinking, and it helps you as an entrepreneur to kind of see things in a different way. Actually, the book of Elon Musk is coming out today by Isaac, I think Watterson.
Yeah.
And he said what he found out from interviewing, and writing about like Einstein and Steve Jobs, even Elon Musk, is like the ability for these entrepreneurs to kind of bring in different lenses to entrepreneurship, like kind of, it's like this vertical integration, and seeing the world in different ways. So he said Steve Jobs studied calligraphy, and he applied that to kind of building the Apple platform. So I think traveling helps you see that, vertical integrations and builds the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you're definitely right. You're definitely right. It shapes you in lots of ways, right? For instance, you will never hear, well, we can never say never, but I cannot envision myself working on something that did not have a social impact. I'm not a nonprofit person. I wouldn't build a nonprofit. But I truly believe in the power of entrepreneurship to solve social problems. And so, for the last decade, the last 13 years plus, I've only focused on building commercially sustainable social impact businesses, right? Or what you call social enterprises. And most of that is informed by my experiences meeting people and seeing some of the real challenges, some that are very, very hard to comprehend, but I've had to experience, right? And so we are informed by the people we meet, and the places that we live. And so the more people you meet, the more places you live, the more inspired you are. And inevitably, the more you will create as a result of that.
Exactly. And speaking of creations, something that you have actually done that is getting this world recognition, and I'll say after this podcast we get more, is Fleri Health. Can you just give us a background of what it is, and just like the initiation of how this kind of come into fruition? It's really hard to be an entrepreneur, and if you can just give us just a sneak peek of what it was at the very beginning, and what you actually and what is currently doing at the moment.
Yeah. So very few people I know ever wake up saying, I want to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. Most of them wake up saying, I have this freaking problem, right? And it's like an itch, and I just need to scratch the itch. Because if I do, it will give me relief, and that relief will give me joy. In the same way, I didn't wake up one day saying, I just want to build Fleri. No, I was actually in my previous startup, Restart, you know, when my grandmother had gotten sick. You know, we sent money, my aunt sent money, my uncle sent money. But that was all it was, right? It was just money going back home. I remember talking to her, and I could tell for the very first time, like my grandmother wasn't really okay, and I'd grown up with her. I was going through, you know, my own migration journey, right? So I couldn't go back home to Ghana. I didn't have an American passport then. Um, you know, so it was quite difficult. But what made it even worse was the fact that, you know, my aunt, after my grandmother, after she had gone to the first appointment at the polyclinic, was given a referral to go to the hospital, right? Now, money is not the problem. So she should be able to go to the hospital because she has grandchildren and children who send money. But ignorance and time and frailty or fragility causes you to be very, very open to a lot of things. She met someone who said, "Hey, I know a herbalist somewhere, and they can give you a potion and you'll feel okay." Right. And under normal circumstances, you ask yourself, like, why would she do that? Right. But she ended up drinking this potion that nobody can identify what was in. You know, and within a day she died. Right. So for me, it came as a result of a frustration with what I believe was a situation that could have been helped, right? Because if the access to care and the money is not the problem, then what is the problem, right? It's the organization of that care and the delivery of that care around it. And so what we set out to do with Fleri was to create a way for immigrants who live in the diaspora who are not there physically with the people that they care about to basically replicate the kind of care, the kind of love, the kind of support that they will give their loved ones, right, through our team.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that is essentially where we started from on this end. That is what we set out to do.
Yes.
Right. And so we set out at Fleri to solve this problem for immigrants, not just African immigrants, but of course, starting with the people who experienced the problem that I was experiencing.
Yes.
And it's kind of evolved from there. So that's the background into it. What we're doing today is a lot like what we started with. It's just evolved and it looks different, but it's the same principle. Empowering migrants to be able to better care for their loved ones, regardless of where they are on the face of the earth.
That's very powerful. And I think, sorry about your grandma, I think that's something that nobody wishes